You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
I can't go back.
Welcome to the She Became Visible podcast. I'm your host, Renee Steelman. This podcast is my story. It's your story. It's our story. It's all the stories of all the women who one day knew that it was time to remember who they were, who they are, and stand up and be seen. Good morning. Happy Friday. It's October 4th, 2024, and I am going to be showing you a podcast that I did last night with my friends. It was so much fun. It was an hour and a half of little sarcasm, little snarkiness, but we were all just having fun. And we were talking about the upcoming General Conference in the Mormon Church that will be beginning tomorrow morning, October 5th, Saturday morning. And we were predicting what they would be talking about. And of course, we got silly and fun, but I think you'll enjoy it. I was joined by Megan Connor from the Midlife Revolution, I think is her name. I forgot. I'm sorry, Megan. I've got it downloaded so you can find her. And she's doing very well. She has some really great insight into her resigning her membership from the Mormon Church. I was also joined from Backyard Professor Carrie Schertz. He's hilarious, so smart. And he has one of those minds that I am so jealous of, because not only does he take in information, he retains that information, which is something that I have a hard time doing. So then of course, the whole thing was put together by Gene of Latter-Day Digest, and he brought us all together, which I appreciate so much. It was so great. And Maven joined us for a little bit. She had some great insight. And Brother Jones, all the way from Thailand. It was so fun. And we also had a fan. Debbie Donovan is a fan. She listens to all of the ex-Mormon podcasts and comments on them, and everyone appreciates her insight. So it was really fun. So I'm just going to share that with you today. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it's a great way for you to maybe start your critical thinking brain moving. And as you go into, if you are going to be watching General Conference on television, it is broadcast. It is streamed all over the world. For those who do not have access to the internet or streaming services, they will go to their church building and it will be broadcast through satellite. So it is really a message to the world, not just to members of the church. At least that's how they advertise it. I don't know if anyone else watches it. But it's really interesting. So I hope you enjoy our insight. And I will turn the time over now to Gene as he introduces all of us. So I hope you enjoy.
Welcome, everyone, to Latter-Day Digest. Today, we're doing conference predictions, and I have invited some powerhouses in our own little world, in our own mind. And we have She Became Visible, Renee Steelman. And we have Megan Connor, Debbie Donovan, Brother Jones, Carrie Schertz. And we might have some other people come in as well, here and there.
And Gene Judson.
And to make sure that we actually get one prediction right, I'm going to predict right now that more men will speak in conference than women. That way we're 100% so far.
That is prolific. That is,
and I've got a prediction that will absolutely match you with 100% accuracy. The women will not be given the priesthood this conference.
I agree.
I thought the girls would be at least allowed to pass the sacrament like a server.
Nope. Too much threat against the boys.
Yeah.
Dang.
So it takes
I thought at least the 12-year-olds would get a compass.
So let's see. We'll have Renee go first with a prediction, and we'll sort of go around the horn and see what happens.
I want to hear your joke. You said you had a good joke, Renee.
Oh, you mean no? Gene had. You want me to tell my dad joke or?
Well, yeah, that was about the best dad joke I've ever heard.
This was a dad joke in honor of Carrie and his infamous dad jokes. I said, "How do you know if it's a dad joke?" Well, it should be apparent.
There you go.
It still makes me laugh.
Yeah. My older brother is a professional comedian. He is not laughing. He is shaking.
Oh, well, it's his bias. Just ignore him. He's a sibling.
There you go. Okay, so my prediction, and I don't know how this is going to come off, but because President Oaks is actually running the show right now. We all know that. Russell is probably still batting balloons. He still thinks he's at his party. And Wendy's still holding his arm very affectionately. And I just have to inject here. If you go back and watch like the last 5 years of Wendy and Russell together, their body language is so telling. I wish there was a body language expert, but she is always like clinging on to him, and he's almost like, yeah. His body language is almost like, it's so fascinating. But anywho, so because Oaks is running the show right now, I am predicting that either he or all of his minions will somehow reiterate the policy that he just put out, that he just sent out to all the bishops and stake presidents about how they need to start conducting more disfellowships or excommunications. They need to start cracking the whip. So I don't know how they're going to verbalize it, but there's going to be this is going to be not quite the jolly, happy. There's going to be a little bit more. You people need to start following the rules, because if not, there's going to be consequences. And I'm
damnation
to see how they're going to lovingly present that in a loving way. Holland will cry. Irene will cry. I love you. Please follow the rules. Please follow the rules. We love you so much. We hate to have to kill you like King George. I have to kill your family and your friends to show you of my love. That's what it'll be. It'll be one of those.
Don't make me shed blood. That's too close to blood atonement. Please.
Yeah, I think she's won like the bingo card there with all of those predictions.
And now I've got that song in my head, and I'm not going to be able to get it out. I'm going to be singing "To Remind You of My Love." Do, 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 do. Yeah. So there we go. Now you all have it.
Okay, so let's go with Megan. Megan, do you have?
Megan, bring us back to home.
Well, I don't know where home is at this point.
Is it nicer than the apocalypse, Mormon?
I honestly don't know. I'm going to agree with Renee, because I really think that there's going to be a crackdown, and I think it's going to come from the place of, we don't want to excommunicate you, but we have to because we love you. I think there's going to be some kind of rhetoric like that. I think there's going to be that kind of crackdown on, like, if you're speaking out against the brethren, we're not going to have any activism against the church policies. We're not going to have any pushback against people who tell lies, even if they're people in positions of power. We're not going to offer apologies. So if you are going to push back against the official narrative, I'm sorry, we love you, but we're going to excommunicate you. It's a court of love. It's a membership withdrawal. It's not, we're not going to actually excommunicate you. We're just going to tell you you're not welcome. So it's going to be that kind of a rhetoric, I think. So I agree with you, Renee. And then the other thing that I'm going to predict is that there's going to be a Henry be crying. And he is going to do some kind of a death march story where somebody died, but somebody also followed the spirit And so that meant that they were supposed to die. Do you have the faith not to be healed? Which brings me to my other prediction that David Bednar is going to tell us that we are all doing something completely wrong.
Yeah.
We thought we were doing right from the beginning, but it's actually totally wrong. And we need to completely reframe the way that we think of it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, he's going to come.
Boy.
That is excellent, Megan, because I was just reviewing his agency talks when he said, "I know that it's his tone, the way he delivers. I know that most of you, when you read the scripture, you thought that it was saying blah blah blah, but in actuality, it was saying." You have made a covenant. You have given. That's not what agency means. And I remember
You
reading
thought it was free agency, but it's actually moral agency.
Moral agency,
It's
yeah.
different from
That-
free agency, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie, we're going to have a tough time topping that one. I hope you're ready.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And in honor of Megan, I
I got
also,
notes.
in honor of Megan, I want to say that I think that Visions of Glory will be canonized.
I wrote that down. I literally wrote that down as my most bombastic thing.
I think that would be the new
Canonize Visions of Glory. Oh my gosh, we're on the same page.
I call it
So I don't know if you
versions of
I don't
glory.
know if you guys remember this, but back in around 2015, Thomas S. Monson gave a talk where he basically sanctified the saint of this guy. I can't remember exactly his name. It was Brother M or something like that. And I kept trying to figure out what in the world he was talking about. This guy who was a sealer in the temple, who had had some like really profound interactions with President Monson. And President Monson was like basically trying to say this guy is beyond reproach. He's beyond impeachment. I could not figure out what's going on. The only thing I can think is that maybe he was about to be second anointed, and he just wanted people to know that that's how holy of a person he was. So maybe we're heading into the same thing with Tom Harrison at this point. Maybe Tom Harrison is going to be sanctified in this conference as somebody who is the oracle, the visionary, who is beyond reproach, who's deserving of all of our praise.
Yeah.
That's right.
They have a huge following. It
Debbie,
is massive. It's more popular than Russell.
Yeah.
Let's hear a couple from Debbie.
Phew, I don't know. You guys just took my thunder. Okay.
You could just say it again,
Wow.
pretend you didn't hear anybody say it.
I would say now to top that, they're going to mention BYU Med School and Rusty's legacy because he is literally like throwing out all the cards.
Oh yeah. You know it'll be the Russell Nelson Medical School. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no question. Yep.
Right.
And
Good
I
prediction.
think they're going to mention Rusty turning 100 at least 10 times in every session of conference. Like, he made 100.
Our beloved 100-year-old
And,
prophet.
and we're so thankful he's still here among us.
You know what the
And,
weird thing was is that they wheeled out Jimmy Carter, who just had his 100th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
guy, I mean, like that's elder abuse. He's like, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're gonna be like, look at our prophet versus your president. Hey.
Yeah.
So
But see, they don't know how to use AI like Nelson's gang does. So that's
Nelson is super AI.
The
In
prophets
fact, I
have
don't
been
think
used.
Nelson will even be at any conference. He'll have a pre-scripted delivered on Sunday.
yeah.
And I think Oaks will only speak once, and it will be from that wheeling pulpit where they like put the desk in front of him,
Oh.
and he doesn't have to stand before the congregation. Those are my predictions, just on a basic.
I just like to say the prophets have been using AI since the seer stone. It's all been artificial.
Okay, I will say this. So
They have been ahead of the game. Yeah.
I wanted to feel like inspired to like be a part of this conversation with smart people, of course. So I went to, because I live in Salt Lake, the Mormon Museum,
Ooh.
Mormon History Museum. And I haven't been there in probably 15 years. forever. And I live like literally 3 blocks away. So hey, it's free. I'll walk through. It's conference weekend. I need some information to talk about. The weird thing is that they did talk about Joseph Searstone. They had pictures on the wall of him translating. Like there's this thing with a tablecloth over it. Like that's apparently the books. And then Joseph with a hat in his hand. But then they talked about like even Emma made this cool bag to protect his stone. And I'm like, oh my God, even Emma was in on it. She made a nutsack for this guy. I mean, I wanted to take pictures, but
she was an athletic supporter of his.
Yeah.
She was totally the jockstrap of the rock and the hat moment. And
The question,
go
though,
to the museum. It's super free. It's super weird.
but the question is, when did they put that display up? That's the question.
Okay, that was never, because I remember going through probably 10 years ago with my friend, and we saw the masks, and you can see the presidents and their stuff, and then the like Mormon pioneer trick. You know what you should see after the nutsack bag is the art museum. There was some weird art.
Oh,
I even sent it to Jean, right? Jean?
Right. Yeah.
Like
cool.
I only sent Jean like half the pictures I took, but some of that is like literally super creepy that I've seen in just like cool museums, not religious art.
Huh.
But also like there was one that was in total Arabic, and I was sending it to a friend who speaks Arabic. I'm like, what does this mean? I mean, there was it's free.
You didn't see Nephi's painting of the tree of life in there, did you?
No, but there was a lot of interpretations from other countries that came on board of the tree and that life, like from Nigeria, from like they had brought in other artists' interpretation of Mormonism and put it on display.
Yeah,
some of that's
Which
probably
was new.
from a competition that they've held over the years, and
Or from prior exhibits. Like I would believe that for sure.
Yeah.
as if
But
Mormonism came up with the tree of life, like it wasn't a Celtic symbol or a Grecian symbol or any of that, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Grecian symbol, Michelle from Greece.
Wait,
yeah. I was just waving at Michelle. She was saying hi. So
That's
hi,
my
Michelle.
right
So
there.
we have Bangkok, Thailand, and Greece represented.
So I took one for the team. I went to the museum.
There you go.
You are the woman, man.
Okay. So who wants to go next? Backyard Professor or Brother Jones?
Brother
I'll
Jones, you've got the floor, my man.
I'll get this over with.
Oh,
Yeah,
first of all,
so-
Brother Jones, we'd like to thank Puzzle Pieces. Megan, are
yes.
you familiar with Puzzle Pieces? There you go. So thanks to Puzzle Pieces for
Friends of the channel.
There you go.
Yeah, you're up in your game, Gene. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime Megan comes on, and Renee or Debbie, I'm upping my game. When the Backyard Professor comes on,
That's not right.
Okay, go.
So
Brother Jones.
my prediction might be more of an idea, but with the robust and growing missionary program, they're going to need a new referral program. Okay, so I predict that maybe the church will begin taking out full page ads in the top 20 newspapers in the world, really. And like once a week, full page ad. If they really want to get their message out, they can afford a full page ad. I was running the numbers. I think it would cost about $30 million a year to take a full page ad out in the top 20 newspapers around the world. Maybe let's go top 50. and start getting those missionaries referrals that they desperately need.
Hey,
How's that for an idea?
Got the headlines.
Yeah.
Please come to our church. We're not Mormon anymore.
That's true.
There you go.
Or it's just gonna say the covenant path.
We no longer give Satan the victory.
Yeah,
I will say in that museum there was still a lot of reference to Mormons, so I felt like I was in the museum of Satan a little bit.
Yeah. That's a fine line.
Yeah.
We walk there.
Now, if you would have had the priesthood, you could have cast Satan out.
That's right.
Like the church lady.
But think about
Satan?
if we think about the amount of money they have to get the message out, whatever you want to call the message, they could buy the top 20 newspapers in the world. They could buy them,
Twitter,
and use that as their
Facebook,
platform. Yeah. What did Twitter cost? Must cost them what, 40 billion or something? They could buy Twitter. I'll bet you Elon Musk would want to sell Twitter right now if he could, especially if he could turn a profit.
Like Mark would want to sell Facebook too. Like those, the stock.
Yeah.
You're so
Think about it.
on.
Think about it.
You're
If
right
they
on.
really want to get the message out that the end is nigh,
Mhm.
why wouldn't they do that? So maybe I'm giving them an idea.
Without even touching their capital, because they've got $1 billion in excess tithing every year. And so they could spend that $1 billion on ad spend and it would be well worth their money.
Yeah.
So they just came out with the top list of the richest people in the world. And of course, Elon Musk is at the top with 270.5 billion. I think the church could overtake that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's
may
worth
have already.
You've got to understand they already have overtaken it. They're just not going to tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's behind the
that's right.
scenes.
That's right.
Yep.
That's
So
why
that's
when
my
you said
prediction.
backyard professor that their stock portfolio mattered, I was like, no, because if we got rid of it, it would be absolved by other companies, just like Bain Capital. Hello, Mitt Romney theory of like absolving companies and absorbing them without ruining anyone's stock investments. Like literally, I think like the church could go away and other companies would absorb it.
Interesting. Is
Especially
that a prediction
they
for
have
this
a huge
conference?
real estate portfolio. Their real estate portfolio is I'm gonna say tits.
Yeah, well, the problem is they have no seaside property for sale in Montana, so I'm not all that impressed. I'm just saying.
Sean actually gets the show. Are these people morons? That's right.
Is he talking about us? Yeah. It's about
None
time.
of us passed our Temple Recommend interviews. We're gonna
Some of us are ex-morons.
How dare you say moron? It's the
Don't
church.
you know that's a victory for Natas,
There you
Satan's
go.
twin brother? Natas
Moron.
just got the victory.
Moron's a victory for Satan.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So I was thinking in line with the sort of missionary effort prediction, I was thinking an actual prediction might be that missionaries will be able to select a few potential places they want to go.
Oh, they'll have some
And
say.
So they'll have
That would
some
be
say
cool.
in the
Hawaii
matter.
is not that big. Hawaii just can't take that many.
Because I've been hearing on some Mormon stories episodes where people thought they had a revelation of where they were going to serve, and then they didn't get to go to where they thought that God had told them. Like in the temple, they had a warm feeling, and they just knew that that's where they were going to serve, and then it didn't happen. So if you give people like 5 potential places to go, you can still probably figure out, how to divvy up everybody.
I like that one because other missions or any other humanitarian work that you want to participate in allows you to choose like where you want to go serve. Like I want to help feed children in Africa, or I want to go do this or this or this like any other religion or like even like nonprofit allows you to take your skills and then put them out there to serve. And I believe
That's right.
maybe they might.
Sean wants us to realize that he wasn't calling us morons. He was wondering if we were Mormons. And so I still consider myself Mormon.
He got it right the first time.
Raise your hand if you still consider yourself Mormon in a way.
Yeah. Only because every time I say something,
I'll do a half hand.
Or they or us, and I
culturally, I still like green Jello with carrots.
I'm still on the record, and my parents still are Mormon.
Oh,
right.
But I'm also a Catholic on record, so I'm like a two-part.
Whoa, we're not worthy.
You're in. You got it covered.
I'm Buddhist.
I got both bases.
So Maven has a prediction. No more than 4 women will have speaking prayer roles. So she's going to limit it to 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have to top last year.
3 speeches. I remember when I first heard somebody say,
it's hard though to
give
find
a
women
speech in
to
church
because it's like they don't allow people with brunettes. They don't allow brunettes to speak. Only blondes. If you've
I'm gonna have to dye my hair.
Yeah, and you have to have a journalist bob. Swings parted on the right over to the left-hand side. That is a rule, mandatory rule. Especially except for Sister crud. What's her name? She's the young women's. Anyway, she's got that weird haircut. I'm like, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah.
And I need to get my baby speak down. And so
there you go.
We all love to serve and exalt everyone in the kingdom of God. How was that?
Not bad.
Julie Beck was pretty good about not doing that. I always liked her because of that. And of course, Sister Okasaki, she was.
And I liked Sherry Dew for that reason too.
Yeah, in the beginning,
very concise.
Yeah, those were the ones. Otherwise, that was the sandwich.
So, there's been a lot of talk the past few years about changes to the word of wisdom. So maybe the half measure will be decaf is okay.
Decaf.
I was hoping that they are going to change like the temple like questions of worthiness, because now they need to get people into those buildings that they've built and apparently they're empty. But I think they might go a little lax on that. And we talked about that. I want to bring them coffee. Every mom says, I need a cup of Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to vote for Kamala then?
Yeah, that way. I thought that a couple years ago. I thought they would make a change and make it just alcohol and tobacco. They would cut out the tea and coffee part. If you want to see a deluge of a flood of people leaving, just make Diet Coke. We have now
there you go.
Add Diet
That's
Coke.
exactly right.
Yeah, Diet Coke is now part of the word of wisdom. You cannot drink Diet Coke. You would see the floodgates open, and people would be like, "I'm out of here. Goodbye."
Well, the weird
Not
part
only
was
that,
I had Mormons who I worked with, and they would be like drinking those 5-hour energy shots, like they were like a breakfast drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you won't drink a cup of coffee? Like coffee is a little more nice to your body.
Well, that's because they don't heat up those energy drinks. The word of wisdom is about hot drinks.
Got to be
there
hot.
You go.
So iced coffee's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why all my Mormon friends still go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
If you really want people to leave, we can start enforcing that part of the word of wisdom that says fruits and vegetables only in their season.
Yes.
Eating meat sparingly.
Yes.
I mean, I've never heard anybody go to the bishop and be, in tears because they ate an entire steak one night. But if we started enforcing that, I think people would leave.
I actually had a bishop not give a friend of mine, her daughter had an eating disorder, and she came home from her mission and needed to renew her temple recommend, and he would not renew her temple recommend because she had an eating disorder.
No.
That is power. That is a power trip.
Bishop Roulette.
That is heinous.
Yeah.
Bishop Roulette, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to go slap my bishop for that.
Well, they did go above
You
his
slap
head.
mine.
They went to the stake president, and he did overrule the guy. But that's just the scary part. That's just the scary part. But
That'd
yeah,
make you want to go to church, wouldn't it?
yeah. I can't have now. See, when is the new garments? When is that coming out? Are those in the stores
Oh.
now?
So
Are they gonna get tank
we're not
top
supposed to talk
garments?
about it because we're not in the temple, so we can't talk
Oh,
about it.
Okay. Just call it underwear.
Renee, you keep your covenants, damn it.
Do you think they'll change something about when you can or cannot wear the garment? Or do you think they'll change again the sleeve length and the leg length again?
All I want to say is that my crazy cousin Lori called it back in 2004 when she said, all you need is a little bra and panty with the right markings, and that's it. You don't really have to do the whole thing. So
Mormons will be
long time ago.
tattooing the compass on their body and then navel and knee mark.
And then
Well, I mean,
need
yeah.
for the white stuff.
That actually makes sense.
Our
Or
temples,
the
our
underwear.
bodies are the temple after all.
Exactly. Our bodies are the temple garment. The end. We're done.
Our bodies are the temple.
That's right.
So yeah.
But it'll be more
So-
like Keith.
Yeah,
You
but
have
the
to vote for
problem
Nemo
is,
the prophet.
can they excommunicate you for the tattoos? Because they don't like tattoos.
So keep your eyes on the job boards, Gene. Maybe they'll announce they need a tattoo artist. They're starting to hire tattoo artists in all the,
So
local
I have 20-year-old
temples.
tattoos that should have gotten me X'd. I would love to see those tattoos become like my sacred symbols. Hello.
I'd just love to see the tattoos.
Oh, I got wings on my back.
Oh,
I
nice.
And a
guarantee
lizard on
you,
my ankle and a gecko on my ankle. I changed colors.
if somebody went into their bishop and said that they had tattooed the markings onto their body, guarantee you the bishops would be like, well, let me see. I got to make sure.
Oh, you
Did
got
you
the
get
compass.
tattooed in
You got the
multiple
compass on the wrong
positions?
side, you idiot. We got to excommunicate you.
Did you self-tattoo?
Yeah.
Hi, Lila.
Was it
Hi,
over the
Lila.
skin or under the skin?
Well, getting back to the subject, we've gone so far. Getting back to the subject, that when Oaks is in charge, that the proclamation to the world, the family proclamation, will be put into the Doctrine and Covenants. It will be made one of the declarations, and it will be added. It will be canonized under his power and authority.
So the printing presses will be running, and the shop will be selling new versions of the scriptures.
Yeah.
It's
There you
gonna
go.
And they'll make $1 trillion
Good for business.
Even frame
Good
it.
for business.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Brother Jones has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything good for business, they'll do.
Yeah, because then it can be, it's scripture. So the marriage, then all of the roles that it declares in that proclamation will be scripture from God. It won't just be, a proclamation. It will be scripture. So that I know Oaks is going to do that. I feel strongly that Oaks is going to do that.
Oaks is waiting to floodgate. He's sad he's gotten so old. He didn't know Rusty was going to live so long.
Well, they need an attorney at the helm anyway for all the lawsuits they're going to be dealing with.
That's
So,
exactly right.
That they are
like I
dealing
said,
with.
we had a doctor for COVID. Now we need a lawyer for court. There you go.
Oh,
It's
and
been
we need a joke from the BYP. I feel one coming on. Hold on.
Okay, let's go.
Hold on. I can't find my hat in the dark. And hold on, I'll look in the garbage can. Okay, hold
Let
it.
me
It
get my
came to me.
crystal ball out.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Have you ever wondered how fast the speed of lightning would be if it didn't zigzag? Good reaction.
All of us are like, what?
Yeah.
I see that Lila Tuller is here, and I just want to say hi to her because her Mormon story was transformational for me. So thank you, Lila.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She's
Absolutely.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Brother.
Her and I are sisters from a different mister. We think scarily alike in many things, in many areas.
Yeah.
That's good. That can be
We
a good
both
thing.
get a little grouchy sometimes, but I love it. I love having a grouchy sister.
Oh, heck yeah. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Okey pokey.
I mean, I
like
feel
that
like
one.
Rusty really shot his wad on like Mormon
He
predictions.
played with his little factory. Didn't Boyd tell him not to?
That's what
I
happens
know,
when you
but
wake
so
up at
like
3 a.m. with a revelation.
But Boyd's a dead prophet, so he can't listen to Boyd.
That's true.
so like
good point.
what do you think is going to be the most? They gotta change something. I mean, that's always what every member who's a true believing member is waiting for. Like, what are they gonna give us? We need the meat. We need the.
Well, yeah.
What do you think
What
it's
they
gonna
will
be?
do, my prediction is they are going to. If I'm starting to get into a very bad habit on YouTube where I'm actually watching the TBM Mormons, and they're putting their testimonies out there and all. And there's some fun ones, there's some good ones, but holy out there Batman Murgatroyd, what they'll do at this conference is they will imply strongly that they are actually in touch with Jesus. I also, and here's where I become the oddball, and that's okay because I am the oddball in this group, but I'm going to really go oddball. I don't think they're going to focus on Oak's excommunication idea at all. I think they are going to worship Russell Nelson.
Oh,
It will all be about Russell Nelson because he's so old. They have to get their worship in because he's soon to go.
yeah.
I think this whole conference is going to be maybe even
All
a
hail
rehash
Rusty.
of Russell Nelson. All hail Rusty. They'll have stories about him, how wonderful of a prophet he's been,
You're
perhaps some
probably
faith
right.
promoting stories, etc. Because I mean, the man is getting old, and he's So
that means they'll have to integrate his steeple doctrine into these talks. Then, right? We're gonna have some steeple doctrine.
Good one.
Yes.
There could be some steeple.
Brother Jones is
Steeple
right.
envy.
This is probably going to be a very temple-centric conference because of the amount of temples that are being built. And there's going to, looking up. There's going to be a lot of looking up everything. You know, I love the one the other day that I heard where someone made the comment that the carpet was a reminder that we should look up, and we're like, the carpet is a reminder that we should look at.
I'm thinking,
That sounds
it
weird.
will be very temple centric. And I love, if any of you saw Benjamin Parks's article that was in the Salt Lake Tribune, and then he also made a TikTok about it where he talked about that, you know, Russell will not live long enough to see the results of this build craze that he's on. But there will either be a lot of active people and it will be a success, or there will be
backlash
and ivy and some kind of apocalyptic scene of temples all over the world that are just deserted.
I think it's going to be a headache for future prophets because they aren't going to be able to afford the upkeep. But I also predict more will be announced.
Yeah, so I have a couple things about this. Number one, it is absolutely in the best interest of everybody who is speaking at conference to canonize Rusty and to put him up on a pedestal and say what a great prophet he is, because it perpetuates the system. If you're going to want to continue to have prophets, then you need to talk about how great the current prophet is. You need to talk about how wonderful his revelations are, how wonderful his teachings are, because then that gives rise to the next generation of prophets, whether it's Dallin Oaks for the 6 months that he's going to survive, or whomever is going to come after that. You have to bow at the feet of the current prophet if you want the current system to remain in place. And the other part of this is that Rusty's fanaticism about temple building is absolutely going to backfire on the church because they don't have enough people to staff the temples that they currently have. They're going to spend millions and millions of dollars building these new temples, which don't have enough people to staff them. They're going to go empty. They're going to be open maybe 1 or 2 days a week. They're going to be seen by the general membership as wasting time and wasting money. There are going to be all of these little conversations about, oh, great, we got a temple in our neighborhood, but it's only open 1 day a week because we don't have enough people to staff it. Meanwhile, stake centers are closing, wards are being consolidated. The membership is not what they've reported to be. It's not 17 million. It's actually closer to 4. it's just going to end up backfiring. And they are going to spend their money because they have to, but they're not going to spend it on feeding the poor and needy. They're not going to spend it on humanitarian aid. They're going to spend it on building more multi-million-dollar temples that can't be staffed.
Right.
They have to spend.
100%.
That's exact. I believe that's right. That they have to spend to maintain their tax exempt status.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And-
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And-
what better than temples in
Yeah.
Russell's mind?
And
Yeah,
In their mind.
That they
And I'll
will
bet
do.
you if there's ever a backlash against religions that are too rich, it'll be the opulence of the temples that actually causes taxing of religions. Maybe they tax religions after $1 million of revenue or something. And it could be because of the lavish temples. And it's like, you spent tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on temples and hardly did a thing for the poor. And it might
Yeah.
be a backlash.
Well, and here's the other backdrop to this. The backside to this is once it dawns on everyone, we've got like 3,000 temples. We're only using 25 of them. What happens to the church membership's testimonies when they begin to sell off those temples? What are you going to think about the work of the Lord when, well, we're kind of cash strapped? We've got to get rid of some of this real estate. It was one thing to sell the LDS hospitals, but to sell those LDS temples or to let them run down, to give them over to another religion, etc., or a business or whatever, what would the people's testimonies, what would happen to them if they get to that kind of a point? Just
Destroy
and
the tabernacle. You're right.
Yeah, the scary part is the rhetoric behind it, because when the SEC came out and identified, and there was the leak, in Ensign Peak, and they said, well, we just have a rainy day fund. We just need to have this money put aside in case, and everyone was like, in case of, and they've actually changed that now and said, we need this money because we are a temple building religion. And so they're actually changing the excuse for having $250 billion.
Yeah, and I have a comment on the reason why that they changed the narrative from the rainy day fund, because the rainy day is now.
Yeah.
There is mass homelessness. There are people going hungry. Their own members are going hungry.
in their own city.
Members in their own city, in their own state,
Yes.
in their own country. We don't even have to go outside of the United States.
Nope.
But if we did, there would be far more members of the Mormon Church who are in peril, who are in food insecurity. And they had to move away from that model of saying, oh, it's for a rainy day, because the rainy day is happening right now. Your own people are starving. Your own people are homeless. And what are you doing to prevent it? Absolutely nothing. We're building more temples. Why? Why? Why are we spending $20 to $30 million on a temple when there are people in that city who are experiencing food insecurity and poverty?
There's one, isn't there one voice in the Bloggernacle that says the temple building is the best anti-poverty program out there?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Especially in Africa, they say the gospel is what will get you out of poverty.
Tell that to all the homeless people.
Hello, we got worse.
Yeah.
Tell that to all the homeless people under the Utah Salt Lake City interstate overpasses that I saw last month.
So who wants Maven to join us?
Woohoo!
Yes.
Bring Maven on.
More Maven.
Bring her in.
Why we
getting
bring
ready.
Maven on, I will say my friend whose mom was a convert in Louisiana, they've been in North Carolina his whole life. He's like the oldest of 12. And in Asheville, but on higher levels, they are not getting any church support. And like where's the church even in humanitarian crisis, in a hurricane situation, or in a war situation, or in Haiti, where there is so much poverty and you have so much money, you could feed millions. Like,
For a
I
month.
mean, in
They could
Utah,
feed
we have
nations.
food
That's
storage.
right.
We don't need to go and like pack up like rice.
But the church
Unless it's
always
going somewhere.
collaborates with other organizations. They never
right.
go in individually. They always collaborate with Red Cross or
Maybe we're going to need a super chat to get Maven to come
so
on.
they have to. They're probably in the process of figuring out who they can collaborate with, so that they don't have to do the work. They just have to give them some money and then they can say, this is how much we gave to Red Cross.
Well, apparently with FEMA, you have to be on an approved list to even contribute to like give aid. So like people who are just in a Christian community can't go
So we
in
have
and
a special
just
guest
donate
coming.
food. So maybe the church isn't on an approved list. I don't know.
Interesting
I
question.
don't know.
Satan is ready almost to come on, I think.
I know. Bring him on.
Who?
So I actually have a kind of a sad story.
Do I have to do it, Maven? Or
If
can you do it?
Maven's coming, well, I happened to be on the island of Maui last week, and I don't know if you guys know, but a year ago the fires there were absolutely devastating, and I happened to be in the area where the most destruction had happened. There are 2,000 families who are homeless. 103 people lost their lives. And one of the buildings that I drove past every single day was the LDS chapel that's right there in Lahaina on Maui.
The Miracle
And
Chapel.
the LDS chapel itself sustained a huge amount of damage. And what is really, really sad to me is that every time I drove past that chapel, there were people on the roof working on the chapel. The windows were boarded up. There were a lot of people on the ground trying to repair the chapel. The church has enough money to completely rebuild that chapel, to completely rebuild every house of every member who is on that island. And it's a year later, and have they done it? No. Where the suffering is the greatest, they have not done it.
They have enough power to remake that money in the stock market in just one quarter.
In a day. In a day.
I'm trying to be charitable. Yeah.
If they've got $250 billion under management, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars every month. They've got plenty of money that they could alleviate suffering. They could alleviate pain. They could rebuild homes. They could house the homeless. They could feed the hungry. And yet they're not doing it. In fact, they didn't add taking care of the poor and needy to their fourfold mission of the church until 2015. Why did it take them so freaking long to add that to perfecting the saints and redeeming the dead? I don't get it.
Woohoo!
Ah, hi, Maven.
Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been listening to this.
Megan? I want to piggyback on that. Were you finished talking about?
Yeah, I was done. I'm done. Like, what else? What more can you say that a church with so much wealth can't even repair its own chapel, can't even take care of its own members, can't even feed its own members? It's sickening to me.
Yeah, I think that's par for the course. The church has been like that for a while. There's someone. There's some background feedback. I don't know whose camera it's through, but I don't know if you can mute.
Like
yeah, when if we're not on, that might help. Yeah. So I've got my devil horns. I came a little bit behind on everything. So I was trying to listen on double speed and try to catch up and see if there was anything that I that was already talked about. I do think about the references to Oakes or Russell M. Nelson, I think I'm kind of going against what some of you guys are saying. I think that now is the time to start kissing Oakes's ass. And I think we're going to see that. I think there'll be, outwardly by name, some superficial references to Russell M. Nelson, but they're going to start, the real brown nosers are going to start quoting from Elder Oakes. They're going to start quoting, from the proclamation on the family, but also his past talks, that kind of brown nosing, I think, to start currying favor. That's what I think. I think the quotes and references to Nelson that we're used to are going to mainly switch in favor of Oakes. And that to start the ramp up there. Did anyone talk about this, the supporting of the building of temples? I think in a vague way that to us will be a dog whistle for the things that are happening with the Arlupa court cases and whatnot. I think maybe with a persecution complex about it or something, but I think there'll be something there, but it'll be sufficiently vague that I think most members won't get or understand that it's a reference to Fairview. I think someone talked about Bednar and how he always like, I think right, Bednar always explains how we got something totally wrong. I was thinking something along the lines of that, but I think more of in a way, kind of like a gaslighting way. And I don't know that it'll come from Bednar, but it could come from somebody else. Just about a policy or an idea or doctrine that was strict in the past, or either sexist or homophobic or something like that, that they're going to pretend was not like that. Does that make sense? Again, I don't have like a specific, if anything, actually, I probably would be about, I think, sexism and women. But that's what I think there'll be something that really glosses over how bad the church has been on a particular position in the past, and will pretend that, just like with racism, like the church pretends it's better than it's ever been. So those are my predictions, plus the one I put in the comments, that I think 4 women, no more, will have any kind of a role, whether speaking or prayer. And I think I thought I had another one. I guess I saw the post on Reddit about the tank top garment for men. Does anyone know if that was real, and if there's a female version? That's something I'm really curious about. I don't think that'll be brought up in conference at all, because I think these are the kind of changes that they do not want to bring attention to. But
pouring shoulders in the bedroom is not going to be allowed any more than pouring shoulders in public.
There, that makes sense, because it is Oaks that gave us that quote. So, right, here we go.
Debbie's shoulders much more tan.
Yeah. But I do think, going back to what Megan was saying about just like the church's inability to care for things, I think we've been seeing this a lot. I mean, even just again, if to reference Exmo Reddit, people talking about just chapels that are in disarray. And there was wasn't there one where there was mold, and it was bad enough that they had to evacuate the building. And there were several people that had like long-term effects from being in and like breathing in these mold spores. And Exmo Lex, this was like over a year ago, and she's in Idaho, so she's also in the Mormon quarter. I think Idaho. I might be wrong. She might have been in Utah. I can't remember. But her local chapel had a dead cat on the lawn forever, and it just like started to basically just disintegrate up until it was basically bones. And she finally like took care of it and bagged up the remains. But yeah, like even members aren't taking care of things. But like from the top, I do think there'll be some kind of a reference to the hurricane, or the church will take credit for some kind of a thing, whether it's somebody else's efforts or telling a story about like a member who personally maybe did a lot for the victims of the hurricane or something. The church will have a story where they will seemingly take credit. And those are all my predictions.
Yeah.
There needs to be a new calling produced in each ward, that there is a dead animal picker-upper.
Right.
I went to
grounds maintenance.
my
That's
state
all.
conference last week, and they did not do a sustaining of the officers, which was interesting, of the general officers. And I'm not sure if they did it at the adult session, the night before, or if they just didn't do it. If there was it's so close to conference, I don't know. But go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I do have one more absolute for sure prediction that I almost dare prophesy. If we're alive, Nemo, the ex-Mormon, and the BYP will stand and oppose the supporting of the brethren in this conference.
At home?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, and someone pointed this out, one of the reasons why the church joins in with other organizations is because they don't have the infrastructure as a nonprofit to really give the money the way, because it's a very detailed thing to actually give money. And, they would actually have to form a charitable organization with paid administrators to actually give the money from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, rather than just saying, well, we're going to donate this money to Red Cross or some other care and habitat type organization, because they have the infrastructure already set up. They've already got all of the clarification and certification and everything that you need to be a nonprofit charitable organization, even though you would think the church is a charitable organization, but they don't, and they don't want to spend money on the administrative costs to set things up. So they will just give some money, and then they will come back and they'll say, we as a church gave $4 million to the hurricane, thing by donating it to the American Red Cross,
Right.
who actually did the work. And that's how they take credit for other people's work, because they're, as you mentioned, Maven, they're so used to volunteer people that take care of the church,
Yeah.
volunteer people that do this, to actually have to pay administrators to do that section of charitable giving, food banks, everything else that they do. They can't do that. So they have to work through their volunteer bishops, Bishop Storehouse, all run by volunteers.
So the
Yeah.
hurricane victims in conference are going to be a non-issue. They're just going to be a slight mention,
prayer.
Yeah,
like
it'll be small.
we
Yeah.
think about you, we pray for you, we love you, and our blessings are with you.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot more general than that. It's very rare that in general conference they specifically address a specific calamity that's happening right at
You're
the
right.
time. They usually say, like, our hearts go out to everyone who is suffering right now and everyone who is in a time of need. And by the way, did you do your food storage? Did you pay your tithing? If you did, then you were obviously prepared for the disaster. If you didn't, well, that's your own fault. Sorry.
They create a perpetual relief fund for disaster on your tithing donation slip. So now you can donate not just to the missionary fund or fast offerings. You can donate to disaster.
The next hurricane.
And it'll never go there, just like with
Right.
the other funds.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
But the
It
members
all
know,
goes
so-
to Ensign
and
Pay.
they'll
all
talk
all
about
the
it to their
prophet would
friends,
have
like,
all the
we
prophet
donate.
would have to do is warn everybody if he had any foresight at all.
Right? Get to higher ground.
I mean, what the
100%.
hell
Also,
is
I
the
think
point
maybe
of the prophet?
The new tithing slip might be a new.
That was one of the big things for me, is where were you on 9/11? Where were you telling the members, don't go to New York City on 9/11? Don't get on a plane on 9/11? Where was the prophecy on that? And there's always some
Where
kind of
was the
apologetic,
Well,
oh,
what we
well,
got
we
was
can't prevent all
Our
suffering.
missionaries were safe, or
Yeah.
there were missionaries who were supposed to be in the World Trade Center, but because of things happened, because God basically
Because they prayed that morning.
God saved
And
them,
the
our missionaries,
story-
not everybody else.
The story about
Hurricane
Gordon B.
Katrina?
Hinckley.
Any hurricane, any natural disaster, when we've seen tornadoes just rip through, or hurricanes, where was the prophet? And during COVID, where was the prophet saying, build a garden, homeschool your children, do these things before the government came in and said,
he was busy.
do this, do
He was
this, do
busy.
this.
He was
And
busy
our
clearing his
prophet's a
schedule.
doctor. The prophet is a surgeon, an all hail doctor. Couldn't even and that was my big beef. That's probably why I got arrested once in Utah County, because I was like, your prophet sucks. Where was he?
Where was
Because,
that on your yellow notepad, Russell Nelson?
He did his duty. He told
He
you.
was calling the stadiums and the arenas to cancel the booking.
Yeah.
So he was.
We were supposed to fast again. Remember, we all just fast our problems.
Yeah, we
away.
didn't have enough faith. That was the
Two-
problem. We didn't have enough
Two
faith.
failed fasts, and the greatest concentration of Melchizedek priesthood in the world, with the Quorum of the 15 and the first presidency, couldn't prevent COVID or cure it or help it. He asked everybody to fast so that it would alleviate the suffering, and both times COVID continued to increase and rage.
No,
That
but don't you
for
know?
shelf
You know
bending.
what's
Dr.
more of a
Professor.
crisis than COVID? Mental health.
Sometimes
Yeah.
though.
Stuck in their houses. No community, no religion, no support, no family, not being able to get married, not being able to go to their grandma's funeral, not being able to send their kids to school. What was the biggest
I heard
crisis?
a lot of relationships were tough, and it even became more abusive or dangerous for some people, being stuck with this person.
But
all the time.
Domestic abuse went whoop, whoop, whoop.
Backyard Professor, though, didn't you know that sometimes we have to suffer in order to get closer to Christ? That must have been the reason why God didn't take away the pandemic, is because some of us needed to suffer to get closer to God.
There is always a beautiful loophole, and it wasn't until I quit being an apologist that I actually could not see that. But good point. Thank you, dear Megan.
Actually, how do you know that it wasn't going to be so much worse? And actually, because of the fasting and the faith and the priesthood that's on the earth.
Oh, the priesthood made it less worse. Only 10,000 died instead of 2 million.
That's right.
Oh,
we could have. The pandemic could have wiped out the entire population of the world if not for that Melchizedek priesthood fast. So we should all be grateful.
I stand corrected. I'm going to go to conference this weekend after all.
Yes.
We should all be grateful.
We will all fast and go to conference. And
you were saying, Carrie, about how a lot of people are thinking that this is the, April, this is the, it didn't happen in April. Everyone thought the end of the world was coming in April. Well, that didn't happen. So this is the month. This is the month for the. But it was funny because when I was researching general conferences, I discovered that conference, I think if I get my facts right now, it's only a couple of days. I've already forgotten. But general conference was canceled twice. Once for the Spanish flu and once for the influenza, both of them in the early 20th century, 1920, something like that. So I thought, oh, okay. So how, where was the prophet, Megan, as you were saying, for the influenza, epidemic that went on in the mid 20th century, and then the Spanish flu, there was a bird flu. Maybe that was the one that was in the late 19th century where general conference was canceled. And so you've got COVID. We've always had these things. We've always had national disasters, some kind of epidemic or something like that. But now for some reason, this is the end. These are the last one. And I'm sure the hurricane is just,
cholera has killed more people than anything, a virus or a war. Yeah. Dirty water. Sorry.
Dirty water.
And God can't cure dirty water? Yeah. Hello.
He can't even tell people ahead of time, just wash your hands. That's amazing.
I know we had to teach people how to wash their hands after going
I think David Bednar is the new Russell Nelson, and he is getting feistier and feistier because the old guys ahead of him are not dying. And he's getting more and more angry every conference because it's like, daggone it. This is Russell Nelson in 1990. We need to change the name of the church. Dang it, he's not dead yet. Dang it, I got to go through 2 more guys. And
someone called him Darth Bednar.
Darth Bednar.
Sick. He's doing really well.
So he was the youngest apostle called, and I bet he thought, I'm a shoo-in for that presidency. Surely everybody's going to die out. And now he's mad because he's like, these guys are living way longer than they're supposed to. I should have been prophet by now.
So his talks are going to get meaner and meaner.
Well, don't forget that the singularity is near. Bednar could live to be 150.
Oh, absolutely.
Brother Jones for the terror of the night.
If you just mute conference and you just watch, this is the page that I'm on right now, Debbie. If you just mute conference and you just watch their facial expressions, what I see more often than anything else is anger and resentment and contempt on their face more than anything else. It's not love, it's not kindness. Do it. You'll see it.
I'm going to try that.
Right there.
I never thought of doing that. What an interesting idea. Yeah. Yep. Huh. I'll be darned.
And I think it was Neil A. Maxwell who said that nobody knows the day or the hour that the Savior's going to come, but any idiot ought to be able to predict the year. So where are we on that one?
All right. But listen. In YouTube land, there really is kind of a big movement on several Christian YouTubes, on some of the Messianic Jewish YouTube channels, where they say the Messiah is getting really close, and they're saying at least as late as 2033. It'll happen.
That's what I've heard. It'll happen.
Oh, good.
There's this whole group doing the red heifer prophecy.
Yes, and they have.
I'm like, no.
They claim the Jews now have 5 pure red heifers that they're raising for that. No joke. And there is a Rebuild the Temple Jewish group that have already made all of the clothing, the linens, the robes, the sashes, and all of that. They're getting ready to rebuild that temple. They're absolutely determined.
First
And
of all, I
They're
love red
lurking
pepper.
on the mount, like pretending to sacrifice. They're getting ready. Like they've got like backyard professors
So
telling the truth.
right around,
Like, this
right
is
around,
definitely a thing they believe in. Like,
right around
that's something
COVID
going
time,
on.
there was a series, and I don't know if it was on Hulu or Netflix or something, and it was talking about the red heifer prophecy, and like some archaeologist was in Jerusalem. Does anybody know the name of that series? Because I wanted to watch it again, because with all this
One for Israel? That's who I've been watching. The group is called One for Israel, and they've been talking about this red heifer business quite a bit, a little bit anyway.
This was like
I
a
watched this like
drama
Sunday
series.
Monday group that does conspiracy theories, and they were the ones who alerted me to the red heifer. I had no idea. I don't know.
That's a big deal. Because they say once we can sacrifice the red heifer, I believe it's a prophecy in Zechariah, the Messiah comes.
So Renee Michelle, to answer your question, she says, what's the church saying about the holy war in Israel? And I guarantee you they will not say anything about the holy war in Israel. They will not address anything specifically. They will only talk in general terms about the calamities of the world, wars and rumors of wars. These are all signs of the end times. You need to double down. You need to be more righteous. The Savior's coming any day. That's all they're going to say.
And you need to begin invoking my name a little more. Brother Nelson. Brother Nelson.
So
the funny
who
thing
was the
is
prophet who instigated the like BYU Israel? Was that Hunter, who was like the liaison starting that?
No,
There
that
was a
was
prophet.
Jeffrey Holland.
You mean Orson Hyde?
Jeff Holland was directly involved in getting that set up. That's correct.
Yep.
The Jerusalem Center?
I read an
The
autobiography
Jerusalem Center, yes.
Yeah.
on
You know
how
what's
hard
funny
that
about
was to set up the
Jerusalem Center is an occupied territory.
Yes.
When I watched that special about that young girl that was converted because she was Palestinian, she was given a scholarship to BYU because that was the promise. We will give so many scholarships because we are on occupied territory. And for them to do that is like, oh, when they talk about, well, that's the world. And I'm like, and you are right there in the pockets of everything else that's going on in the world. That was amazing to find out. You'd think that, as you say, you'd think that a prophet would say, but that's not our land. And we're going to follow the laws of the land and not occupy and overtake land that we haven't been given. But
well, the church hasn't followed laws ever since Joseph Smith. So
But
yeah, and
even,
another
like,
question.
in the Middle East, to like stick a stick in it, it seems like a really bad idea because there's already a big stick. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and another thing, will they bring up real lives of Mormon lives? Absolutely not. They've already issued a statement about that series and their condemnation of it. They're not going to ever speak specifically to anything in general conference. They're not going to ever do anything that is going to divide the membership. They're always going to straddle this ever widening gap between the people who love LGBTQ people and the people who are advocating for health on the other side of the church. They're going to just try to straddle this gap. It's going to get wider and wider and wider and wider. And eventually there's going to be some kind of a huge schism.
Eventually it'll split their pants.
Exactly.
Always a message that goes out to the general world, and then the secret message that's told in the temple behind closed doors.
Not only that, you're right, Renee. There's like that secret message that goes out to the general leadership of the church that they tell behind closed doors in the temples. And then there's also Fair Mormon. There's also all of these websites, all of these influencers, all of these TikTokers that are supported by the church, that are promoted by the church, that put out the message that they want to be said, but they don't want to say it themselves because they don't want to create division. But they're doing it surreptitiously.
Exactly. It's all general. Follow the covenant path. Get closer to the Savior. The time is getting very close, brethren. I can sense it. My spirit is sensitive. Jesus is needing us to be prepared. Jesus can't come without a righteous people.
That's right. Get more righteous, be more holy. Don't do social media. Don't research. Don't go on the internet. Don't listen to Mormon Stories podcast. Don't listen to Latter Daily Digest. Just
Please-
stay on the
please-
covenant path.
That's right. Please just
I want
act-
them to canonize the covenant path. That one I had on like my like how many times are they going to talk about the covenant path in like conference? Like I think we could play bingo or a drinking
could.
game. Anytime they say the
Ooh.
covenant path, anyone
Let's do that. I'm for that.
That-
take a
Yeah,
shot of
I'm a
coffee, a
lightweight.
shot of water, or
yeah, shot of water. If we go alcohol, I'll be wiped out shortly. I'm a lightweight.
I know.
Because
I have a
might be-
prediction
I don't
that at some point the church is going to be renamed the Mormon Catholic Church, and so it'll be the
I'm
convent path.
covered. I'm a Mormon
Convent.
Catholic.
You would be the prophet. You would be the first female prophet after Deborah from the Old Testament.
They wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow it.
There's a
My
there's a
criminal
free
record.
space for Henry B.
It's
Iron
too
crying
Joseph.
during his talk.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's a for sure thing.
We put that on the center, like if you were to create a bingo card, which I think all of us should get together and play like Mormon bingo conference. And like
We should.
because
We
I was researching like predictions on and every influencer, everyone who talks about Mormonism had like their followers put like or their friends put their like predictions on. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we literally should create bingo cards because some of them are so awesome of what people think they
Yeah.
can predict is going to happen with the church or
Yeah.
what
That's
will
right.
be announced that I
So
was
I'll
but
say a
the-
couple things.
the
really
free
quickly
square was crying.
is tomorrow night or afternoon, whatever. Nemo is going to do his conference prediction show, and he's
Yes.
going to try to be as accurate as possible. And we've just been having fun. So if you want to, watch Nemo's show tomorrow, and we'll see. I'm interested to see if the power of Nemo is going to be unleashed. I wonder what it'll be
Well,
like.
we were having fun, but we're seriously having fun.
Right.
Nemo's now a
Having
salty
fun to
fish.
stay sane.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
so Nemo has been very kind and gentle.
Yes,
now he
has.
doesn't have to be kind and
Right,
gentle. He can
right.
take the gloves off. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I don't think he will though, because he is. I believe he
Classy guy.
knows that he's more powerful, just the way he is. If he can maintain that kind of a, he's got that wonderful Brit humor. Everybody loves the Brit humor. He's got it, but he's also got that Brit pizzazz, and I don't think he should leave that. I don't think he should go. I would understand and I would empathize and I will still support him, even if he does get into that angry phase. No surprise there. But I would hope he wouldn't stay in it for too long, because he's more effective by being who he is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, because I know in the letter they said, you may still attend church. You can still, we want to see you. We love you. I would be
He
surprised
might.
if he doesn't continue to go, at least for a while, just to see, because he did love his ward.
He
He
did. Yeah.
loved people, and to see if they welcome him. And I bet they do. I bet they're very warm. And
It's amazing how so many of the Mormons, because I was trying to get on his live when he was talking about his excommunication and all. It's amazing how many Mormons just simply don't believe him. And all I could think of was, well, if you were in my ward, you're lucky Nemo wants to go to church, because I wouldn't be able to stand you arrogant, self-righteous pricks.
yeah,
For the Mormons to say, Nemo's not even sincere, he doesn't deserve to be Mormon. Why would you be? He is a community person. I get that. I personally am a Capricorn, so I'm okay either direction with a community or not. But I understand people's desires and needs to be involved in a community group, whether you're a member or not excommunicated. I don't see that as Nemo hypocrisy. I see that as, and this is a lesson for all of us. I'm going to say it based on what we have as a track record. You cannot change Mormonism from the inside, but you can't change it from the outside either.
Yeah.
So here we are. And yet it does change. So I'm wrong somewhere.
You can only change.
We have great members in the church who are just born into it. Like I was born into it. And you know what? I had a son who was not born into it. He's born Catholic, but he is like Nemo. He is like my peacemaker. He is my oldest son. He is the sweetest thing on the planet. He will keep everyone happy. So I don't think that has anything to do with religion. I think that has everything to do with personality or just where you are in life. But like Nemo, that isn't religion. Like, and for a religion then to turn on, if a religion turned on my son, who is so sweet and so kind and so loving and such a fighter, like of being nice, to like have a religion turn on Nemo, I would, as a mother, go AWOL on a religion. That
and I think a lot of it, and Nemo has even mentioned this a few times, because there's that stereotypical English contention averting personality trait. And I would say if that stereotype is truth, and they always say there's some truth to stereotypes. My stepfather was English, and in reverse, he joined the church, was baptized, gave up drinking, gave up smoking. He was actually in the stake presidency with Dallin Oaks when we lived in Naperville, Illinois. And he was a temple worker, very dedicated, and finally admitted just months before he died that he did not believe the church was true. But he did it for his family. And he did it because it was the right thing to do in his mind, because his wife wanted to join the church. So he joined the church with her. And so, so there is, I mean, Americans are, we've got that personality. And you can, if anybody has watched Nemo, you can see that this has been emotionally draining for him. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see if he doesn't continue to go and continue to be a part of the war. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he's received.
For sure.
I bet he stays away for a little bit just to recoup.
Yeah.
Well, but also Nemo is very much like Emperor Palpatine, strike me down and I will become more powerful than I ever was before.
I think the thing that hurt him the most was that even said in the letter, it wasn't so much that he had an issue with some of the apostles and things that they had said, because his stake president said, I know about that. We've talked about that. But there was something about that personal correspondence that the stake presidency used against him as you are going after members like one-on-one. There was something about that he will not divulge that I think just crushed him. And so that's interesting and very sad.
Well, if something like, and this is the difference between perhaps the classic Brit and the dingling American me, if something like that had been accused to me, I would have said, you're damn right I'm going for one-on-one. I'll go for 1-on-2, 3, 10, 200,000, or 80 billion. Yes.
Yeah.
When I heard this, though, it sounded like the BYU honor code, though. Like when I hear and read, like anyone who's gone through the BYU honor code process, it there is that like, oh, we tattle and we tell and we're just here for your spirituality because we care so much. We were worried about you. Like God told us to work out our differences to save your soul. And so I get a little bit of that like fundy Uber Mormon BYU kind of vibe off what happened to Nemo, even though he's not anywhere near the state of Utah. It's just
it's really disappointing how the church really does advocate for members to inform on each other and to, just it's like Nazi Germany all over again. Like if you see somebody doing something that is not in accordance with the teachings of the church, please report it. Please give receipts, please give evidence. And then we're going to use that evidence against somebody to excommunicate them without telling them what the evidence actually is. We're just going to call them in and say, hey, you're in trouble.
Actually, well, I'm turning all 5 of you people in.
Yeah.
Hey, I've already been turned in. I got the mug shots to prove it, Cara.
Too late. I resigned.
I do.
I had a girlfriend
I'm a
whose
bad
neighbor
girl.
called the bishop because there was a gentleman's car in her driveway, and she got called in on a court because they accused her of having an affair and whatnot because a neighbor called and was suspicious. So that's to your point, Megan.
It's so true. Like my cousin, I remember going to BYU. She was married and tanning in her background when we were all fake tanning, of course, in the 90s. And so she was tanning in her background, in her backyard, in a bikini, and a neighbor saw her. And she got called into the bishop's office for wearing a bikini and then a tanning.
Oh.
In Provo, Utah.
What
Now
section
this is how deep it goes.
Just bathing on the roof, basically.
Right? I mean, like Bathsheba for sure. For sure.
Horror.
Bearing her testimony.
Deep horror.
Showing
Bearing something.
Yeah.
Well, I
Luckily,
just have
my
to
cousin
say,
loved it and married her, and maybe he liked her in a bathing suit. So good for him.
conference time, especially in the fall, is always really hard for me because my birthday is actually on Sunday. My birthday frequently falls on General Conference Sunday. And I always used to think, oh, it's so wonderful that I get to spend my birthday sitting at the feet of prophets and listening to the apostles speak. And now I just have to say kind of F you to that, because that's not what I'll be doing on my birthday on Sunday.
You know what?
Where will you go, Megan?
Oh, I am going to be off the boat. I'm going to be at a bar, probably getting a tattoo and snorting cocaine off of a hooker's
What birthday is this?
abs.
What
Well,
birthday is
also,
this?
do you know what this weekend is? It's not just Mormon Holy Week.
It's
Of
Rosh
like,
Hashanah.
it's Rosh
Yeah.
Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the new
Bless you.
year. So
Yeah.
go and throw your sins into the water.
You know that
bread.
Lorena appeared to Joseph Smith during Jewish holidays. That's the latest.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the thing. So
So
I
Renee,
have a visitation.
to answer your question, Renee, I am turning 50 on Sunday.
Stop it.
I just turned 49 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Amazing.
Good job.
Woohoo.
We're
I'm
like
officially at
up in the-
midlife if we measure it by Rusty
Midlife.
Nelson's metrics.
There you
Yeah.
go. Oh, happy birthday.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Where are you going to be? Are you in Utah?
No, I'm in Texas. I
Okay,
actually
anyone in
had,
Texas, go buy this girl a drink and like.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
DM me for the address. I'm going to be having a backyard cookout. Just everybody come by, bring something. I'll grill it for you. We'll have some whiskey. It'll be great.
I wish I was in
Nice.
Texas this weekend. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to end this conversation, unless anyone has any.
Oh, we have to sing happy birthday to her though. Don't we?
Okay,
No,
let's
you're
see.
going to have
Ready?
to pay thousands in copyright. Don't do that.
Oh, no.
But no,
Let's do it.
what's the Mormon? What's the Mormon one?
Oh, the birthday song. You've had a
Yeah.
birthday,
Happy
shout
birthday.
hooray. We want to sing to
All the
you
primary leaders.
today.
There
I've
was
never
also
heard
one
that.
before older kids. Like
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
we're all
1 year
too
older
old
and
to
smarter
remember.
too.
1
Go,
year older
Megan.
and wiser too. Happy birthday
wiser.
to you.
So I loved that they were going to maybe canonize the Visions of Glory. Does anyone have anything else? I mean, maybe they bring polygamy back.
I'm hoping. That's
Well,
my
for the Texans, are they going to call Ty Detmer to be a 70?
Yes,
Or has that already happened?
Oh,
I think it's going to happen.
dude,
Oh yeah, we could
you might
say.
be right. You might be
Let's
right.
do one quick thing. Who more than last time temples, and what does last time mean? This is April last time or last October last time?
that they
I
predict.
think there will be at least 8 predicted. 8
I
new
think we
ones
should go
announced.
around
Okay, so-
and each of us should say a number. How many
Okay.
temples are going to be predicted?
Yeah, I'll
So
say
that-
8.
I'm gonna say 11.
I'm going to say 7.
I'm going
So
to
that's
say
kinda
5.
low. Ooh,
Okay,
really
I'll
low.
say 6, so we got it all covered. We were.
I'm gonna go. I'm
Nice.
gonna go. I'm gonna go. Price is Right and say $1. One temple.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, just so you know, since I live so close to it, you remember here a couple of years ago, I mean, through the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow shenanigans, that horror story, President Nelson did announce a second temple in Rexburg. Their justification, of course, is because the youth are so overwhelming, the one up on the hill, that they have to have one down by the interstate now. That is being built. They weren't just talking about it. And the reason, of course, and I've heard this from people, is the Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow influence is still very much alive in Rexburg. They are the dominant spiritual force. And the church wants to flex its muscle and say, bullshit, we're the ones in charge of this town. This is our town, and we're going to build another temple to prove it. It's kind of a, we're tougher than you, but it's a major contest because, I mean, the weirdness going on
So
will just blow your mind.
Backyard Professor, you and I should talk, because I have done some deep dives on some of the people who are still following Chad and Lori. I've had people come out of the woodwork to come and talk to me about the experiences they've had in that area of the country. And it is seriously frightening. Like, no joking aside, every time I do an episode about some of these fringe groups, people in my comments say, be careful, be safe, hope you're okay. It seriously is scary.
Yeah. But they really are building that. I see, we've heard criticisms. He's announced temples now for the last 10 years in his tenure as prophet, and he hasn't built over 75% of them. This second Rexburg temple, it's on the way up. It'll be done shortly.
Why haven't they excommunicated any of those followers of the Visions of Glory group? I mean,
so I can speak
let's
to that
just
a little
talk.
bit.
If they're going to excommunicate, and Oaks is going to go balls out to the walls out of like excommunicate people, I have a list. Like,
Here you go.
you want to excommunicate people? Let's start
Yeah.
over here, not here.
So yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. Obviously, Chad and Lori have been excommunicated at this point, although Chad was not excommunicated until the children were found on his property. So it was long after they knew that he was teaching apostate teachings, but it wasn't until he was really indicted legally that they excommunicated him. And a lot of the reason why they're not going after some of these leaders of fringe groups, for example, Mike and Nancy James, the people who are heading up Preparing a People, Christopher Perrett, who's the head of Avow, is because there are so many followers of the LDS church who subscribe to these teachings that if they start excommunicating these people who are prepping for the end times, they're going against their own doctrine. So they can't do it. So there's a lot of controversy about this, where they're not going to excommunicate anybody who is still even just a little bit on the church's party line of these things. And I think it's really unfortunate because, yes, absolutely, she became visible, follow the money. They're going to lose tithing dollars from all of these people who are very faithful tithe-paying members who believe in the end times, who are prepping for the end times. They're not going to start excommunicating those people. The people they're excommunicating are people like Nemo, who are speaking out against the church leaders telling lies. If you commit the unpardonable sin of calling out church leaders for doing something wrong, for stepping on the wrong side of history, or for lying, God forbid, then you're going to get excommunicated. But they're not going to excommunicate anybody that's bringing in a revenue stream for them.
Yeah, exactly.
How fast?
It sounds like when they put out the manifesto against polygamy, were they actually going against polygamists? No, because those were their most loyal. Most of the 12, most of the 70, most of the highest up of the echelon were in polygamous relationships. So this absolutely is par for the course. What you're saying makes sense, because they're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face, because it's money.
Yeah, Wilford would have told everybody, hey, we quit polygamy. Then he turned to the church and he said, hey, all you guys, head down to New Mexico and Mexico. Don't you dare quit.
And
keep
Canada.
going. Keep going. And Canada. And Canada. Yeah. In fact, there are still groups who have never stopped.
Yep.
Right.
Including Dallin Oaks and Russell Nelson. They are polygamists. They've been married in the temple to 2 different women now. Yeah. Are they going to have to choose which one, or do they get them both?
And when they die posthumously, how many women are going to want to be sealed? Do they still do that? Because remember how many people would seal themselves to dead prophets back in the day?
Yeah,
or how many prophets would seal themselves to young women on their birthdays? That was the thing that happened
that
too.
one is questionable. Like what, 57? Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
I personally think that Rusty's going to have one planet with Wendy and one planet with his first wife. That's how that's going to work.
Yeah.
So he'll have several universes.
And that's going to be under the jurisdiction of Danzel. It's going to be like, I don't even want to be on the same planet as that.
Danzel's going to burn her shit down if she says Wendy. We all know that.
Danzel's going to form a Death Star and put a ray right at Wendy's planet. It's going to be gone.
You know, it's funny. You were talking about temple attendance. And when I worked in the Portland temple, I lived in Vancouver, Washington. Over 80% of the workers that worked in the Portland temple were from Vancouver or the Vancouver area. So now they're building a temple in Vancouver. And I said to my husband, who's going to work in the Portland temple? And which, you'd think with all the subdivisions that fed into that Portland area, that it would have just been, filled with workers. But no, they were crossing the river, and traffic has gotten so crazy in the Portland area now that it was really a sacrifice for a lot of those people to get over to Portland to work in the temple. But that's where the workers came from. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But yeah, it's going to be, I hope I live long enough to watch the apocalypse. Yeah. The ivy growing over the boarded up windows.
Gene, one of your commenters asked an interesting question. How much will our buddy JS be mentioned in conference?
Oh,
who's JF?
Very rarely.
Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith. JS.
I predict that the Motabs will sing one verse of praise to the man as a prelude, and then we'll be done with it.
Interesting. Yeah. It's all about Russell Nelson, the living prophet.
That's
So
right.
I want everybody's attention to the screen. It says from Aaron, thanking Megan for doing all the collaborations you've been doing. And I'd like to thank Megan as well.
I would too. It's fun. It's good.
And yeah, I think that the rising tide for us little ships has to, we have to stay.
Hey, who you calling the little shit?
Me. He's calling me a little ship. No, you guys are welcome on my channel anytime. Come and let's have a conversation. I love collaborating.
So are you guys. I'll look you up, Megan. That'd be fun.
We're at 1.5 hours, and most of my audience are probably asleep right now because they're quite a few of them are retired. But anyhow,